Hello, Mom and Dad Meet World. So I want to talk to you about this machine right here. This is the 2025 M4 MacBook Air. This is the 13-inch configuration. This is the baseline model with 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, 10 CPU cores, 8 GPU cores. A little bit of a consideration is this guy right here next to me. This is the 2020 M1 MacBook Air, and the 2020 M1 MacBook Air is still a solid computer, but maybe you might want to consider upgrading to this M4 MacBook Air, and I want to talk about a few of those reasons why. But let's talk about this M1 MacBook Air and a little bit of history I have with this particular chassis, with this particular model. So before we actually got the M1 MacBook Air, we had the very same model, very same body design with an Intel Core i3 MacBook Air, and that did have a fan. And so we upgraded immediately from that Core i3 version, same body design, to the M1 MacBook Air when it was available. We got a very good trade-in price, and we were very, very happy for a couple reasons. One, there was no fan, so it was completely silent and doing everyday day-to-day task, and quite honestly, it did not need that fan. And then two, as far as like battery life goes, we legitimately got more usable hours with this 2020 M1 MacBook Air than the Intel model ever did, and so that was a big plus. So it ran quieter, ran longer, and it was just a great upgrade for us, going from the Intel Core i3 to Apple Silicon M1, and could not have been more happy with that upgrade that we did back when this computer was first available. So fast forward to now, and behind me I've actually got Final Cut Pro, and I just exported a video. I wanted to see how well it would do that compared to this computer right here. So our 2025 M4 MacBook Air. As I said, this is the baseline model, and comparing that to this baseline model, so we're going to run into a few differences right off the bat. One is going to be 8 gigs of RAM versus 16 gigs of RAM that comes standard with this particular model here. Both have the same 256 gigs of storage. So 8 core CPU on this model, 4 of those being efficiency cores. As I said, 10 core CPU on this, same 4 high performance cores, and this has 6 efficiency cores as opposed to this one having 4 efficiency cores. So this one will have 7 GPU cores, while this one has 8 GPU cores on the M4 as standard. But as far as like day-to-day use, they are actually both very responsive. Both are very zippy in performance. I do notice just a tad little bit more responsiveness with the M4. The M4 is just a beast. I'm not talking about like the benchmarks, but I'm talking about real world day-to-day use. It is just, you can actually feel and see a little bit more of that responsiveness compared to the M1. I'm not saying the M1 is slow whatsoever, but you do notice that little bit of speed performance in the M4, especially when using them side by side. However, when I'm using Final Cut Pro, so I want to just talk about stuff that I would use a computer for, not other than like benchmarks, but I'm talking about like real world use. So using like Microsoft Office, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, both work very well. Both will not break a sweat using any of those Office products. And then using Final Cut Pro on here, Final Cut Pro actually runs really well. So 4K H.265 footage runs very well. I can scrub through the timeline with very very little hesitation. As soon as I drag my cursor, I hit the play, it plays very quick. It does so just a little bit better, a little bit quicker, a little bit more responsive on the M4 than it does on the M1. But for a machine with only 8 gigabytes of RAM, again, 8 core CPU, 7 core GPU, it holds its own and does so very well. For the export time, so we've got a 15-minute, 53-second video of our M4 Air's first or initial impressions, so quite a long video. This one exported it in about 7 minutes and 30 seconds, while this was just a minute quicker with the M4. So not that big of a difference. But as far as like the other differences go, so I want you to take a look right here on the side. So if you take a look on the side, you're going to notice we have MagSafe. So we are missing MagSafe on this computer. I've actually added like a magnetic USB-C charging, like a little charging dongle on there to get like the efficiency of like the MagSafe, where not plugging in necessarily all the time to these USB ports. But as far as these USB ports too, you've got the MagSafe, so it frees up both of your USB ports to use them for other peripherals like external SSD or an external SD card reader. And these USB-C ports on here are also Thunderbolt 4 ports on the M4 Air, and they are Thunderbolt 3 ports on the M1 MacBook Air. And here's the thing, I think Apple has spoiled us providing very, very fast connectivity with having Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4 ports, even on the M1 and the M4 Air, because those are very, very professional, very quick, speedy ports, and we get them on the Air models. And with those Thunderbolt ports here, we can actually run 2 external displays here, plus a display on the actual computer itself, so 3 total displays that you can have on the M4 Air. With this one, the M1, you can only run 1 external display, so 2 total displays. And 2 total displays is actually not too bad. Again, this is a very, very competent computer. Have 2 displays total, but with this one, you could have up to 3 displays total with the 2 external monitors. That is really, really good. As far as like other physical differences, what you're going to notice is the keyboard and the trackpad. The trackpad is a tad little bit bigger on the M4, and then on that top row of function keys, what you're going to notice is the M1, they're using like half height keys, where you do get the full size keys on the M4 MacBook Air. So I don't know if that is going to be a preference to you. You do get the wedge design that is infamously the MacBook Air design, where on this particular M4 MacBook Air, you do go back to that squared off design, just pretty much squared off all the way around. And I do not mind this design whatsoever. I've actually gotten used to it. I like it very much so. And I guess I like it because you do have that MagSafe charger, which I can't help but say it enough. I do love having that MagSafe charger, because it just, again, frees up those 2 ports, and I liked being able to just magnetically charge and then undo it. So that I very much so do like. Other physical differences, you're going to notice speaker grills versus hidden speaker grills on the M4 MacBook Air. And then something that you may not see, but we're going to go two parts on this. One is the bezels. You're going to notice a little bit more uniformity on the M4 bezels as opposed to the M1 bezels. So the M1 bezels are just a little bit different size all the way around. And if you take a look at the M4, you get about the same size bezels all the way around, except for the notch right here, which houses a 12 megapixel FaceTime HD webcam, where on this one, you do get a 720p FaceTime webcam. I think the camera difference is going to be pretty massive in that sense. So the camera quality on the M4 Airs with that FaceTime HD camera is actually quite good. You can definitely use that for very, very usable web video like FaceTime or Teams calls. That won't be an issue with that. But as far as like the 2020 MacBook Air, I still think it is a very, very good computer. If you are still on Intel and want to upgrade even to this M1 MacBook Air, I think you'll be very happy, because it is, for us, it was that much quicker, and it still is a nice, quick, and responsive computer. But after using both computers side by side, the M4 is more responsive. It is just a little bit more fluid. Having 16 gigs of RAM standard means you've got a little bit more headroom for a little bit more future proofing and a little bit more multitasking. But with this, it is still a great computer. If you can get this computer for, I would say, $400 or less, then it's still definitely a computer to pick up if you are looking to get into Apple Silicon. However, if you want to upgrade or go into like your first Apple Silicon Mac, then this 2025 M4 Air MacBook Air, even the baseline model, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, 10 core CPU, 8 core GPU, this is going to be just fine. And if you can get more than that $200 trade-in value, because I think I have seen it for about $200 for the trade-in, if you can sell it on OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, any other third-party seller, or just privately on your own, I think it will take you just a little bit longer, but I think you can get more than $200. If not, and you really, really want to upgrade, then you can get this for as little as $8.99, depending if you qualify for that education discount. I know a lot of you do, at least in the United States, but even at $9.99, or you can watch for the sales coming up where you can get it for a little bit less. I think this is a great computer for just about most people. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video where we compared the 2025 M4 Air MacBook Air to the 2020 M1 MacBook Air. Both are still very, very good computers. Both are still very responsive computers. But if you are looking for the latest, greatest, or if this is going to be your first foray into Apple Silicon, this is a great computer to start off with, especially with the standard baseline configuration. All right, I got to stop talking because I'm just talking in circles. Like, share, comment, subscribe. It all helps out our channel. And until next time, thanks for watching. Bye for now.